So basically the format today is going to be, so unfortunately there will be a certain amount of me talking at you, which is not necessarily my favorite way to do things, but I felt as though we had a lot to share here as a team, really on behalf of the civic engagement, resident engagement team, which is the outcome team that is sort of shepherding through the community organizing RFP here at the foundation. And then at the end of sort of the presentation, we will open up the floor for questions. I will we'll start with sort of the info session takeaways, what it is that we expect for all of you to understand a little bit better as a result of this presentation. And like I said, at the end, we'll leave room for questions. And I will say we are going to end promptly at 11 o'clock because in this Zoom culture, as many of you may know, a lot of us are having back-to-back meetings, and I actually do have an 11 o'clock meeting as well. So I'm going to go on ahead and get started. As a result of this info session, you will understand what the Hartford Foundation is looking to support, what Hartford Foundation means by community organizing, important attributes of this opportunity and who the foundation envisions the grant recipients will be, other ways we can assist you with applying or completing applications if you need it. And then, like I said, we'll open up to questions through the chat, but then also giving some folks the opportunity to speak. So what does the foundation support? So our funding intent with the community organizing RFP. Through its support of local community organizing, the foundation is seeking to, 1, support the incorporation of marginalized and underrepresented resident voices, opinions, needs, observations, and solutions into institutionalized decision-making. And 2, increase the number and amount of marginalized and underrepresented resident-led problem solving and positive change taking place. And this is all in alignment with our mission of advancing equitable social and economic mobility and dismantling structural racism in Greater Hartford. And as you can see below, I gave some examples of where institutionalized decision-making takes place. Government is a big one, school systems, water boards, but also healthcare systems are an example. And the Hartford Foundation is actually another example of where institutionalized decision-making takes place, institutions that are meant to serve the public. So what does the Hartford Foundation mean by community organizing, right? So community organizing is a method of engaging and empowering people with the purpose of increasing the influence of groups historically underrepresented in the policies and decision-making that affect their lives. Community organizing is both a tactic to address specific problems and issues and a longer-term engagement and empowerment strategy. Longer-term objectives of community organizing are to develop internal capabilities and to increase the decision-making power and influence of underrepresented groups. So this is not the only definition that the Hartford Foundation has been working with in order to sort of develop this program and the RFP. But this is one of our main sort of what we go back to as we've been looking to put together this materials in the application. Community organizing is a field of practice, and there are many theories as to what is the most effective way to do the work. Successful community organizing can lead to advocates representing underrepresented and marginalized populations who are comfortable speaking to people in positions of power, communicating their needs and ideas. Persistent community coalitions built to address and monitor local problems they identify and would like to correct. policy changes more reflective of a broader community voice, legal action to correct actions or seek damages for negatively affected populations. So these are just examples. Community organizing can do and does so much more, but these are examples of the kinds of things that sort of we envision seeing happen as a result of the community organizing that we're supporting. Okay, so sometimes, and I want to frame this by saying the foundation very rarely discusses anything from a perspective of deficit and or not and or can't, but sometimes it can be helpful to define what something is by talking a little bit about what something is not or might not be. And so if your community group or organization's mission does not focus on power shifting or power sharing in civic spaces, elevating community voice, including allowing them to set the agenda, and facilitating opportunities for marginalized and or underrepresented citizens to seek accountability from institutions, your proposal is probably not a good fit for this particular opportunity. If you're engaging with residents more along the lines of changing attitudes and beliefs or problem solving really very short-term immediate problems, I elevated the example of cleaning up a park. The foundation considers that to be resident engagement. And I'm actually also going to say that there is later on this week, and I'm sure that I don't know how many people have 10 a.m. free every day, but later on this week, there will be an info session about what we mean by resident engagement, because there is a resident engagement RFP. And I am going to ask that any conversation or questions asked later, just try to focus on the community organizing RFP. Of course, we're also available here at the foundation for more questions individually later on. So important RFP aspects. So I almost said resident engagement. The community organizing RFP is pretty open, as long as what's requested is ultimately in support of the foundation's broader intentions in this space. It's open to a broad set of social issues, but has a preference for efforts that can be directly tied to advancing racial justice. Because of that preference and because of the way that the rubric is set up, most of the projects funded will be person of color led. For those of you who have already taken a look at the materials, few proposals will be funded at the 60K level. That's for a multitude of reasons. Some of that is resource driven. I will say that one of the things that when I have individual conversations with applicants or grantees, I always say, tell the foundation what you need and sort of let us figure out on our end what it is that we're able to do. So I do offer that. I'm also going to take a step back and about the marginalized and underrepresented and sort of person of color led, and just take a moment to acknowledge that just because a person, you don't have to be a person of color to be a representative of a marginalized or underrepresented population. However, it is sort of the convergence of the foundation's mission, as well as an acknowledgement that some of the most blatant and blaring disparities that we continue to see can persist along lines of color and race. And so it's the convergence of those things that has elevated that and will cause the majority of the projects to be funded to be person of color led. Applications for efforts supporting more than one group. I should say that. I'm going to take out the word project there. See, this is the space where, right, we're supporting a lot of different things for a lot of different reasons. It could be more than one project. And community organizing, for those of you who do it as a point of practice, know that it's an ongoing thing, right? But what I mean to elevate there is if there's more than one group. So if groups are working together collaboratively, those type of applications are okay. The foundation does not expect for community groups and organizations to be using specific methods or to cover specific social issues. Our expectation is that you communicate to us what population you're accountable to and why you think what you're doing is going to have some impact. And I elevate that bullet very specifically because I think that that's probably the key as you look to answer any of the questions, any and all of the questions, particularly the project questions on the application. That's what you should keep in mind. That's what we're looking for as far as the answers to the questions. There might be some questions, and this is actually a great segue into my second bullet. There may be some questions that are less appropriate for smaller, more grassroots efforts, or that are going to feel like, wow, that's a pretty big question, you know, for my group and what we're doing. Answer accordingly, or don't, you know, and it meaning in the fact that, yes, please answer the question, but don't wring yourself out, you know, looking for an answer that does not exist. I guess that's what I'm trying to convey. So answer the questions, you know, in earnest, with the scope of what you do and what you're doing in mind. So the second bullet is something that I wanted to elevate from the application. You're going to see 4 questions, 2 questions apiece about relationships and initiatives. 2 are organizational, 2 are project-based. The only questions that are mandatory are the project-based questions. And what we're trying to get at is essentially what I just said with regards to, we know that we're looking at, you know, different leadership structures and different organizational structures for this type of work, all the way down to our more grassroots folks, where pretty much only the project-based questions matter in the case of the grassroots application. What we're saying is answer the questions as they're appropriate to you as the applicant. If there's something that you see and you say that that doesn't relate, we're okay with that. That doesn't disadvantage you against the other applications. The question is there in case you have something to say. So I just wanted to elevate that for folks. Application assistance. Okay, so if you're having issues with your Foundant account, all applications must come through the Hartford Foundation's Foundant account. So if you're having sort of really core issues, password, username, accessing the right application, just really core technical issues, shoot an email over to grants administration. For a second, I'm going to go ahead and spotlight Sue here. She didn't want me to do this. Sue Hills, say hi. Sue Hills, Senior Community Impact Associate, can help you with a lot of the technical aspects of filling out your application. So, for example, we are requesting some attachments. So filling out program budgets, submitting financial documents, board demographic sheets. If you are using a fiscal sponsor and you need assistance with how to complete the questions with you know, with your fiscal sponsor. Sue is your lady. Say hello again. I'm
Hello.
embarrassing her.
Hello, everybody. That's what I'm here for. If you have any questions, just send me a line. I'll,
This was intentional because she didn't want me to do it. You can go on ahead. You can send it back, Sue, if you want to. Thank you. And then as far as content is concerned, so like your actual program itself, whether or not you think something may or may not fit, if you have additional questions based on the information that you've heard today, you can contact me, Sierra Stansel, Senior Community Impact Officer. We are going to share these slides at the end of this presentation with everyone here. And like I said, this info session will be posted on our website. Okay, so now I know I talked a lot, sorry. We're gonna open it up for questions.
actually, I have a question. This is Sue Hills. I don't actually necessarily have everybody's email. So if you absolutely want to make sure you get a copy of the slide deck and any other materials, please drop me an email. That way I'll have the correct email to send these things to you.
Thank you, Sue. And that is in part, normally we would, but that is in part because we wanted to make sure that anybody who found out about word of mouth could access this presentation. So, and this is the part where I lean on staff and everybody because I can't see. Questions? Will it be done again in the future? So Richard, we had every intention of doing the community organizing. We actually have every intention of eventually making this opportunity open and rolling. We're currently at a point where we believe, yes, I will in a second. Thank you, Megan. We're currently at a point where you know, we will be investigating that from a resource standpoint. So there's already been a lot of discussion, and it seems as though we're going to get a lot of interest. So the foundation at this point does need to consider where we are resource-wise before we make this completely open and rolling. So that is our ultimate intention. But at this time, I don't have further information on that at this time. Lucy, hi Lucy. Yeah, so can organizations apply even if they have other ongoing grants with the foundation? So the short answer to that is yes. I will say that the way that the rubric is set up, those organizations might find themselves disadvantaged amongst the broader pool, particularly amongst other applicants who do not have other funds from the foundation, but because of the nature of community organizing, the fact that it's ongoing and reactionary, we didn't want to close off the opportunity for organizations to be able to apply for funds if it made sense with their ongoing projects or operations and things like that. So my computer just did something funny. And I just got a direct message and a question. This seems like a good question, but I would have to think before I answered it. So, so Rebecca, I know you direct message me. I'm gonna hold on to this question, and I'm going to, because I'm the kind of person, when I answer something, I would like to answer it well. Let me think on your question, Rebecca. Let me think about it, and I will get back to you. I promise. I'm actually saving it. No problem. Any other questions? You can also raise your hand. It's so quiet, and I'm the only person who's been talking for 30 minutes. It's just quite embarrassing.
Hi, I actually have a question. My name is Chanel and I'm from the Grow Hartford Youth Program. And I was wondering if organizations that do grassroots organizing that empower residents to make change in their community, if they can apply that way and also count it as civic engagement. And I'm thinking about specifically because I do school food and school food justice. That's my focus. I'm thinking about the Black Panthers and their breakfast program and how they modeled a successful breakfast program that was then later adopted by the federal government. So would that count organizations that engage their community to be the change that can then later be examples for the federal government, for the state or local government to then pass it? Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, so see, that's right. That's an example of a really fine line, because it wasn't until later, right, that you knew, that effort then led to something that created a change later on. So that's the difficulty of going back and forth with the definitions of what is community organizing versus what is resident engagement, right? So that's the difficulty of all of this. We're aware of this. And we are aware of this. And because we're aware of this, that is the reason why we have the community organizing and resident engagement RFPs. So whichever door you come in, just know that the teams that are reviewing the proposals are having these conceptual discussions. And if you're given a grant, I guess it's no skin off your nose, right? One way or the other, whether it was through the resident engagement RFP or the community organizing RFP, you still got a grant. But just know that there's a purpose for that, and that's why the two RFPs exist, and that we're aware. So that's, I know I didn't exactly answer your question, but the other, kind of going back earlier into the presentation, there's an intentionality difference between the two projects, and that will come through in your application, or it should, if and that will also play a factor or a role into how it's viewed by the foundation. I hope that answered the question.
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Lucy raised her hand.
Yes, hi Sierra. I just have another follow-up question, because our current grant already funds our organizing work. So I was just wondering if we still be able to apply to this one to, supplement that work that we're already doing.
Sure. So I did believe that I was able to answer that earlier. And I actually have a meeting with Mary in particular later this week. But so you're eligible to apply. And we did that intentionally because we wanted organizing organizations to be able to come in for funds. We know you can't predict the future, right? We know that you can't predict when it's a reactionary field. And so we wanted organizers to be able to come in when they needed funds for the things that they needed funds for. I will say you will be disadvantaged in the process against a pool of applicants that do not have other funds from the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving. So just so that you're aware, if you do come in, other applicants who don't currently have funds will have a bit of an advantage in the review pool. But once again, we didn't want to work to stop and or not to be able to support certain work that the foundation has already supported because of core granting. So.
Thank you, Sierra.
Tanea also has a question.
Hi, I'm Tanea. I just kind of got on late, and I just wanted, like, these grants are harder to apply for this year than they were last year, and I feel like the need is greater. So I just want to know why Hartford Foundation doesn't have the ability to streamline this process, because I apply for a lot of grants and I have to do less for more money, and it's really ridiculous the process that we have to go through. So I feel like it's so hard for us to apply as grassroots organizers that I feel like we're not even going to get the money, because people who have the capacity in all of these white run foundations that I see on this call right now, they don't even need it. And it's so hard for us to take out the time to fill out this application. Like, I'm just so tired of it, and y'all have the ability and the power and the capacity to make this easier for us, and you're making the conscious decision not to. Because I've written a letter to a foundation for $30,000 and I got it. So it's really ridiculous that we have to jump through all of these hoops when you know we're doing the work. We're in the paper, we're in the media. People are writing about us. You can see our social media posts. What is with this, with these barriers? Like, I just don't understand it. I just don't understand it.
Tayana, I want to validate your concerns. And I can't say anything other than, you know, this is a 125-year, I think I've got the date right, 125-year-old organization with old systems. And there are lots of conversations. We're currently in the process of an entire process redesign, where the concerns, just like the ones that you've raised, have come up in conversation. I want to apologize to you for you know, the stress and the strain that, you know, completing the 97. Okay, I'm sorry, Chris, my apologies. Communications is on the line. They know better than me. But for the stress, you know, that it does cause to have to plan around what looks like our application and our standards. So I want to acknowledge you and meet you where you are, and let you know that your concerns have been heard. You're not the only one, and you know, certain things have been elevated, and we're working through that information with our current systems. I know our Vice President of grant making, Alyssa, is on the call.
Yes, first of all, I can't see everybody, so I'm not sure I have the name of the person who raised this question, but I want to, you know, as Sierra did, acknowledge that we are listening, and these two RFPs are new for us as well, and we very much value the feedback that we are receiving, that we will receive, and it will inform how we think about doing our work going forward. And so again, you know, I think our intention is to move our processes to be more responsive and to the realities of the work that you all do, and the time and capacity that you need to do that work. But we are acknowledging also that we are learning, and as Sierra acknowledged, wanting to change the way that things have been done to be responsive to the needs of those of you who are doing the work. So please, we value your feedback, we value your criticism, because that is the way we're going to learn forward. So, again, I want to support everything that Ciara said in terms of that we are looking to receive this feedback. We are in the midst of a redesign process for every aspect of our grant making process. Much of what we are looking at is based on feedback that we have already received and that we continue to receive. So I just wanted to note that and to support what Ciara already shared.
And I've been saying this because I got one last year and I said the same thing. I'm like, why are we still doing this? Like, why, like, are we serious right now? And it's the truth. Like, it's going to be the people who have the capacity to go through this process. Like, y'all keep listening. I was talking to Erica last year. I'm like, why is this continually so hard? I couldn't believe starting to fill out this community organized application. I'm like, are you serious? This is like double what I did last year.
Can you just share what process you used last year, just so that we can understand? Just the regular grant making application?
The housing application.
Mm-hmm. The housing policy advocacy application is what you had a better kind of time with? Is that okay? No, that's helpful to understand.
Alyssa, just to clarify, it's the housing organizing RFP that the higher opportunity neighborhoods did last year.
Mm-hmm.
Not the advocacy one at the end of last year.
Got it. No, that's helpful. Thank you.
I also wanted to reiterate that as we explore ways to streamline our process, really learning from the good feedback that we're getting from everyone, we are trying to find ways in the meantime. And I know Ciara did shine a spotlight on Sioux Hills, and I just kind of want to reemphasize that Susan has a lot of experience working with smaller grassroots organizations or even groups that don't have their official sort of 501c3 nonprofit status to really help walk through the application itself. So I think an organization or group could feel free to reach out to Sue and over the phone provide information, and she can even help input that information for you. So that is something that, we are able to offer as we work towards trying to simplify our processes. And Sue has just put her phone number in the chat. She is available for those phone calls. So we really do want all of you to feel supported in this process, including Ciara.
Thank you. Vicki Gallen-Clark.
Hello, can you hear me? Good morning,
Yes.
First of all, to everyone. Ciara, I had to step away. I listened to most of your presentation, but I had to step away and work with a new employee. So I'm back. Did I miss the opportunity or the question if 2 or 3 organizations wanted to collaborate and pursue this grant opportunity? Is that okay?
Yes.
Great. Awesome. Okay, thank you so much.
Kim Flant.
Hi, so thank you, Vicki, for admitting that you got distracted during this meeting because
I have to be honest.
I was afraid to ask my question because I was also distracted during this meeting at one point. And I'm wondering if someone could briefly clarify the difference between the community organizing grant opportunity and the engaging citizens grant opportunity, in resident engagement, sorry.
Sure. So it's really the intentionality and the overall goal. That's probably the biggest. And then those are probably the biggest differences. And then the other, I guess, difference is in the community organizing RFP, one has a preference for projects that are directly connected to racial, or where the sight line of the intentionality of the project is directly connected to racial justice, as well as there was something else that I was going to say as far as the differences. Power shifting, power sharing. It's the intentional nature of the community organizing projects. That's the biggest difference.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'm sure it would be clearer if we look into each RFP and identify, how exactly they're stated.
Right.
Thank you.
And I understand they were both, and I could absolutely see, like, this is a bit vague, but there was intentionality by us being vague, allowed for you all to tell us what you're doing. That was the reason for that. So I get it. I understand. You can always shoot me a quick email. I believe that the PowerPoints for both of the info sessions will do a really good job of framing. Does anybody have any other questions? Okay. So I am available by email, and we will send everyone who would like it. So this info session, so we do have a recording of the info session. Sue will send anyone who wants it the slides, and you can definitely always reach out to me as you complete your application. And also Sue can definitely help with some of the more technical aspects of the application should you need it. Okay. So I want to give everybody 14 minutes of their time back. Okay. So thank you all so much for coming and participating and sharing your initial reaction and criticism as well. Thank you so much for your feedback.